The model is quite an intense model, but it's one that we hope will close the loop and fulfil all those gaps in the market, I guess, that other social prescribing projects nationally have found.
ABCD stands for Asset-Based Community Development. So the asset people often think of as buildings, but it's not. It's what's in the community. So your friends, your networks, the groups that you're part of, the skills you might have. So say you've retired and you used to work in finance. Well, you could do the books for a voluntary sector. Or you want to pick up stuff on the beach to clear the beach, and you feel you can't walk much, but you can make the tea. But part of that has been part of that connection, and so you can be actively, mentally, physically and socially put them together, and your chances of living a better life, dealing with illness and trauma are much higher.
My role is to lead and manage the service. I manage the contract on behalf of East Riding of Yorkshire Council. So I manage the Link service, the Connect service, and then we were fully supported by the Build service and the VCS provider, which is Smile Foundation.
So you go to your GP and you're worried about unhappiness, you're lonely and you want antidepressants. Well, do you really want a whole set of pills and maybe then sit at home? Or the alternative is to be connected back into things around you, the things you used to do, used to enjoy. So if we can make that connection back, get you to use your skills again, you can offer things back into your community and support other people.
Social prescribing, I think, offers our patients a different vibe, a different feel, rather than just coming to me from time to time, and can provide a little bit of link between what goes on in GP practices regularly and what actually happens in the real world and in communities around and about. And I think for some patients that sort of middle process is really important, and perhaps has been what's missing historically.
So we've got 3 stages. The first stage is the link workers, which is what I do, and then we've got the connectors and the builders. So the link workers, the main role that we do is being based in the practice, so we're integrating with the GPs, the nurses, the receptionists, all the people that refer to us. The main thing that we do is to signpost onto different services, do the initial assessment.
So the Community Link service is based in general practice, and we do the triaging and the support and the hand-holding, and we go through a full wellbeing assessment with the patient. Once we've identified what their needs might be, which might be multiple needs, because it might just be the fact that it isn't just about welfare and debt, they might have some mental health, emotional needs that they need supporting with. So it's our job to try and triage some of that and then identify and signpost them into the most appropriate services.
Meeting patients, doing kind of health assessments with them to find out if they've got kind of existing conditions, things like that. And we find out, where they're working, how they're living, asking all kind of questions to try and identify if there's any other kind of problems going on in the background. And people kind of just come to you and tell you that they need help. And we find out how we can help them the best that they need, really.
What I have found, certainly with my patients, is they may be referred for one specific thing that GP has recognised, but I find through the questionnaires I'm uncovering a whole wealth of issues. So what might have initially appeared a bit of a quick fix, we're finding actually what they've been referred for isn't always necessarily the root of the problem.
The first time she came to me was about 3-4 months ago. Hardly got anything out of a whole session because she just cried the whole way through it. She is a carer for her dad who has dementia. She's had to leave her job because of her caring role. She didn't really feel like she had a worth in life because she used to care for her mum. Her mum passed away, so then she generally felt like she didn't know what she was doing anymore. She was in a lot of debt because the only thing that she felt made her happy was shopping online. So she shopped and shopped and shopped, got in loads of debt. That caused her to obviously get depression because of the people that were constantly at her. People wanting money off her, places like Very. And that brought on her alcohol problem. So she started drinking because that was the only way that she found helped her. She wasn't involved socially with anything really. So that's when she came to me, signposted from a GP. I think they were discussing something like medication, and that's when they said, well, do you want to see our link worker Jess?
I came in, it was a Monday morning, I'd had a bad weekend, I'd been on the drink, sat up crying all evening, and I thought I've got to do something. I felt that was no use to anybody, and I did come to the point where I had considered ending it, and I thought I have to do something. And I came and they saw me straight away and they put me on, the doctor got me to see Jess, And from there, I mean, it's been a while, good few months, but I'm at the best I've ever been for many years at the moment.
Today she attends the gym every day. That's her thing that she does for herself now. Initially she didn't do much for herself at all. She is supported by carer support, so she feels a lot more like people are behind her with her caring role. Her alcohol, she only drinks on a weekend, a couple of glasses of wine now, and she's a lot happier within herself as well.
Practically she saved my life really, because I mean, I just couldn't see a way forward. I didn't know where else to go.
So the connector role is really, the role works really closely with the link workers. So the link workers are based across the GP surgeries in the East Riding. The connector part of that is to really help the individual to fulfil the more practical aspects of the support plan that the link worker has developed. So it could be things like accessing a group in the community, attending appointments, or accessing other local services. The connect worker will be the individual that supports the person to access those community assets.
So it could be that they want to join a chair-based exercise class, or it might be that they just need to join Men in Sheds because it's a guy who has lost his ability to communicate or engage with others and wants to be able to have a chat, in a man's world, I guess.
So if someone comes in who is socially isolated, we would signpost them to the connector. Their role is to lead on from us, so it might be taking them to a social group that they've not been to before, and might be a bit nervous to go themselves. They'll go with them.
He came to the practice to see his GP, and the GP immediately referred him to me. This was just before Christmas. And it was actually on the last day before everyone broke up for Christmas, so trying to activate services was quite tough. He'd just been mugged, had his NHS walking stick stolen. He was quite tearful, very anxious, so sat him down, found out what the issues were, and it soon became apparent that there was this whole history of things.
Since 1997 I ran quite a successful company, and we ended up with a recession, weathering the worst of it, but people stopped paying us, and ended up where we lost the company, 12 people out of work, and ended up losing my house, the business obviously, and my previous co-director Peter, he died of a massive brain tumour within 5 weeks of them finding it. And then the love of my life, after 35 years marriage, said, right, I want a divorce. I ended up living in an old caravan. Didn't have any facilities, no heat, no electricity, no water, no running water, and I was referred by my doctor because I was getting further and further depressed and spiralling downwards. I met with Phil early in the new year, after the council was closed over Christmas, and very quickly he got me into sheltered accommodation. Initially I didn't really want, I'm not exactly fighting and kicking, but I was very nervous about going into sheltered accommodation because I'd become a bit of a hermit in this caravan. So I went in there, got in there the 5th of February, I think it was, I moved in there. And Phil's been extremely helpful. So, he had a great can-do attitude. And it wasn't just like can-do, but he did. He set out how he was intending to help me before Christmas. 10 days shutdown, and then within a very short period of time I was in the sheltered accommodation. Phil's going to be helping me hopefully to become more comfortable with meeting with people again, because I find that now extremely difficult, even family members. The first year after my divorce I was invited to my daughter with my grandkids and son-in-law for Christmas, and I just couldn't face going to them, so it's been quite a spiral downhill. I always found it very difficult to ask for help, and I didn't anticipate when I met with Phil. I just said, look, I'm becoming a hermit again, I'm having problems, I've been having some very dark thoughts as well after 5 years by myself, and now I can see that, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. So Phil's going to be like now, tomorrow I've got an interview with the local leisure centre. That I'm going to be doing, I forget how many weeks it is, use of the training facility or for the whole leisure facility to try and get fitter again. I put about 2.5 to 3 stone on since my fighting days, as it were, since losing the company through inactivity, and Phil's going to help me get a bit more physical mobility and probably more importantly the emotional side of things back on track.
The builders will then come in. I might say, right, there's no dementia groups in Withensea, we need some. The builders will come in, say, right, let's sort this out, we'll get the room, look at the demand, and they might get us to do a bit of an expression of interest with our patients, and then they will build that from there.
It's working with our communities to find out what they've already got and identifying kind of the needs and gaps in the communities. So as our idea of building, if there was, for example, in Pocklington, if there was a real need for a walking rugby, for example, we would get together with our partners and try and devise a way of make sure they could get a walking rugby session that would work for that community and for the people who would need that group. But also we're there to support ongoing groups. So we've got loads of different things trying to get groups in Pocklington, so we've got asset mapping, trying to find out exactly what's going on, getting it all together. So if someone came and said, oh, I'd like to try out this, or I want to do some more physical activity, then we would A, be able to signpost them to a potential group that's already going, or B, if there was a need, we could build a group that would satisfy their needs.
Well, I actually got referred through my diabetes nurse, because I used to sit and talk to her, and she sort of said, do you want to go and do this? And I said, yeah, because at the end of the day, I just feel I've got issues, and I just felt at the end of the day, it's easier to talk to a stranger sometimes rather than somebody that you know. So that's how it started for me.
He was reluctant to get involved with the service, basically because of things that have happened to him in his past. So initially, when he did eventually come to see me, it was mid-January, and again he was very, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, he was very standoffish. You know, you're not going to be able to help me, thank you anyway, but I don't think there's any point. And I basically just said to him, give it a try, let's try. I've
just sort of decided to, because I've got issues, there's things going off in my life anyhow, and I needed to do something about it, but in the past, I've just been ignoring it and not thinking that I'm capable, or it's just like a vicious circle. And that's how it's changing for me, because I'm sort of getting a kick forward.
So Smile's strengths are finding out the problems within the communities and finding innovative solutions, and most importantly, creating the strengths within charitable organisations from governance, safeguarding, with regards to also providing resources, skills, time, finding funding, finding volunteers. We've got those strengths within our team, and being able to look at that from an innovative perspective as well. Practically, how the delivery is going to be from the VCS perspective, from the Smile Foundation, how that actually fits in and nets in with the social prescribing, is we're going to be there to help make charities stronger, to find new charities that need to be registered and set up, giving them the resources, the skills and the confidence to set up. And we've come up with a unique model called a community hive, where what we'll be doing is looking for the queen bees within the community and sharing peer-to-peer learning, where we can take best practice from one charity, no matter how big or how small they are, and passing that on to other community leaders. We'll be doing that through a very different approach, so there'll be online support for charities, then there'll be offline support where we're looking at almost TED Talk style and presentations where community leaders and charities can come in and tell and share their best practice, and then we can add some skills and resources to that and create a vibrant community, whether it's in Goole, whether it's in Beverley, whether it's in Hornsey, Withensea. And we've already been working within the communities in East Riding as Smile for the last nearly 10 years. We've been doing that in the background, and this is our opportunity to shine and be more proactive within the East Riding community and give the charities and community groups the skills, contacts, resources they need to connect with the social prescribing to make sure that people have a healthier and happier life.
it's your friends, your neighbours, you know, that are maybe holding a bingo night in the local pub. It's more, you know, on that kind of a level. It's about enriching that community and allowing people the option, I suppose, if they're feeling isolated or if they're feeling that they're low in mood or they're anxious, that their only option isn't just to go to the GP and to be prescribed some medication. There's a strength in that person's community. They can walk out the door and feel part of a neighbourhood, part of a community.
We're really quite excited by the partnership we brought together, and that's Humber Foundation Trust, Teaching Trust, experts in mental health. We've also got the Smile Foundation, a voluntary sector charity, who are very entrepreneurial and have some really good ideas about supporting the voluntary sector in the East Riding, quite radical ideas, and Mind, the mental health charity, and bringing together the best of large NHS, voluntary sector and large charity together, I think it allows us to really have a sort of a dynamic relationship, and that will change the way voluntary and community groups are supported, but also what those options are in the community now. So you don't have to rely upon the GP, the hospital, the social worker. You've now got other options in your community that you can be part of.